We're Now You Know events, and we're back behind the scenes with Benjamin Cottrell of Benjamin Cottrell Designs. So Benjamin, you've kind of blown up a lot in the last year, I would say. We probably met a little over a year ago.
Right.
Wasn't really all that familiar, and then all of a sudden, Benjamin is everywhere in Chicago. How did that happen? It seemed like one day to the next.
Well, actually, it was intentionally bringing this company up the way I did. I started in styling, backstage, working with all these really great designers, and I built relationships with them. And I think that was my big key, as when I wanted to turn my business into a more full-service production company, I had them right there, and they were a huge support.
Also, another thing about you, you're quickly becoming known, I think, for originality, for doing unique things, for thinking outside the box. Has that always been your mindset? Where do you come up with these amazing ideas?
It has. Well, I am a designer, first and foremost, studied interior design. And then I went into special events, so I learned a lot about different effects that you can do to really give your audience something to talk about.
Yeah, and you've done some really fun things. I know you have a lot of amazing things in the works. Is there one thing that you've thought of that you just love to make happen, but it's kind of a crazy idea?
Oh,
really
I do.
Can you share?
Yes, I can. I want to have a fashion show inside of a car wash. I want to lift up all the machinery and literally have my runway go down the middle of the car wash and have everyone sitting in there. I want it to be at night with some of the crazy lights that you typically have in car washes. And I want to do this with a really funky, fun designer that would really highlight the space.
I think you would definitely have to go funky to
absolutely.
highlight that space. Now, here's something I don't know if a lot of people know, because they see you out there. You're you're in the city. You're just doing big things. You're really from a small town in Wisconsin,
Very
correct?
small town.
So has
country.
it been like a whirlwind going from Wisconsin, where you grew up, to like big city living?
It has. I always knew that I wanted to move to Chicago, so it was always in the back of my mind when I graduated college. That's where I was going to be. And I pretty much did it right away, a couple months out of graduating. So I've been here now for about 8 years, so I'm very used to it. This whole fashion, special events design, caliber of people is really fun. I've learned a lot. It's very rewarding, so I love it.
So used to it. Funny you mentioned that, because I think I recall seeing your name mentioned in one of the Chicago papers at Ralph Lauren, which I think is one of your favorite spots.
One of my favorites,
yes.
Absolutely.
Next to Matt Damon, that's pretty big stuff.
That was funny, wasn't that?
Yeah.
I know, I opened the paper, I'm like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, so Matt Damon was in that week, and the old mayor was also in.
That's
so,
right.
Yeah.
I knew there was someone else that was mentioned.
Yeah. So that was pretty funny. And I think, honestly, what they do is they call there and be like, oh, who's been in? And they know me so well because I've been going there before I moved here, actually, and some of that same staff still works there, so I've known them for over 8 years.
One of the biggest nights in fashion is coming up, Fashion's Night Out,
Yes.
which we're highly anticipating.
Yes.
There are so many things to do up and down Michigan Avenue, all over downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about what are the key places to hit on that night?
I think for sure I've got to stop at 900 North because that's always a big one. Saks Fifth Avenue is doing a really nice event this year, and I know a couple of people on the board that are involved, so I'm definitely going to stop at that one.
You've worked with a lot of designers in Chicago. If you could work with any designer, whether it be here or outside of Chicago, who's someone you're dying to work with?
I've been trying to work with Barbara Bates, who is local.
Okay. She was on, was it Fashion Star?
She was on Project Runway.
One of the big fashion shows, design shows.
Calvin Tran was on Project Runway, and I just finally got to work with him, and I was very excited.
I know.
It was a long time in the making to find a project that was big enough to withstand his name.
Sure.
But he's one of those guys that kind of does his own thing, so it's hard to get him involved with this kind of stuff, but I think he was really happy about it.
And so finally, you've got a ton of stuff coming up. You've got your calendar together for your events for this year.
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the don't miss ones that are coming up?
I would have to say one of the next big ones that I do have coming up is October 5th. It's called Fashion with the Opera, and it's working with the American Chamber of Opera. and we're going to put on this event at the Intercon and actually putting opera singers on the runway.
Oh, wow.
So that's going to be a really fun one. They're actually going to be singing and performing while the models are walking down, and we've got some really great designs attached to that. So that's a big one. I'm also planning 3 separate events for Fashion Focus this year that I'm going to be producing. So that's going to be a fun week. It's over at the Nature Museum, and it's the night at the museum.
Oh yes, we are very familiar with that event and looking forward to it. Awesome.
Yeah, so
well, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. Always a pleasure.
You too.